In the world of dark and darker, there stands a bastion of ruin, a fortress that stood at the edge of civilization, a citadel of kings, priests, and scholars, now forgotten. Its halls once rang with steel and song, but something happened here, something so terrible that history erased it. The doors sealed, the people abandoned, the castle was left to sink into shadow. What happened to this terrible place? Why is the deathly silence shattered by the low burden's toll? What happened to the people that once called this place home? Much of the castle's history has been lost. What we do know is pieced together from scattered records, rumours, and the whispers of survivors. In this video, I hope to inform you all on the history of the ruins of the forgotten castle. It began centuries ago when a wise and powerful king ruled over his people. His reign was just, his judgments fair, and his guidance drew admiration from far beyond his borders. Under his rule, the kingdom prospered. At his side stood two loyal figures. The first was his champion, a legendary knight whose face was never seen and whose name was never spoken. Clad always in his helm, he was the throne's sworn defender, a warrior unmatched in skill. Those rare few who survived a duel with him claimed it was not through strength, but through luck or mercy. They described him as a giant, yet moving with inhuman grace, his flurrying strikes impossible to follow. In the blow of his assaults, one or two blows always landed. The people called him a spectre. The second was Toz, the court wizard, whose loyalty to the crown was equal to the knight's. Where the knight wielded steel, Toz commanded the arcane, guarding the realm's borders with fire, lightning, and frost. It was said he had mastered every school of magic: pyromancy, electromancy, chiromancy, illusion, alteration, the list goes on. With his vast knowledge, he founded a school of sorcery, a beacon where apprentices could gather and learn, no longer forced to wander the world as he once had. Together, the king, his nameless knight, and Toz, the master of arcane, they were unstoppable. The city flourished, its name carried across the lands, spoken with reverence for its wealth, joy, and peace. Decades passed, and the kingdom had never known such golden days. Yet, high within his keep, the king's heart was troubled. He had no heir, no successor, no blood to carry the crown beyond his death. Toz, though powerful, lacked the resolve for kingship. Hasty in judgment, obedient to a fault, with no strength to endure the crushing weight of the throne. The knight, though noble, was a mystery too great. How could people accept a ruler who wore only steel, who hid his face, and who never revealed his name? The king feared his bloodline, and the city he had worked so hard to build would die with him. Unless... In a moment of fleeting brilliance, one thought gnawed at him. To ensure the city's continued glory, he believed that only one thing could suffice: his own immortality. In secret, the king approached Toz. Toz, in a rare act of defiance, initially declined the king's request. Toz warned him of the danger that happens when man meddles with the natural order. But the king was unshaken, his resolve unstirred. He had convinced himself that this was no selfish ambition. It was the only way to protect his people, to preserve the Golden Age forever. Toz was tasked with seeking a mythical creature, the Midnight Stag, with the power to grant anyone demigod-like powers. But immortality comes at a terrible price. What is given must be taken. For the king to endure, all that he sought to protect had to perish. The streets, once ripe with the chatter of merchants, the warmth of his people, and kids playing, twisted into agonizing screams. Then, silence. Laughter faded, the very land itself twisted under his curse. The king, mortified as to what he had just released unto his subjects, left him in paralyzing guilt, watching as his people writhed in pain and decay, as bones cracked, shadows consumed flesh. Ultimately, he could not stop what he had put into motion. He felt utter helplessness. Numbed to morality, haunted by guilt, the truth sank in. His ambition had become a monster far greater than anything he could have imagined. Toz stood beside him, eyes wide with panic, spells flared and fizzled, powerless to halt the creeping corruption. He tried to reason with the king, to undo what could not be undone, yet every attempt only seemed to feed the curse. Magic that had once safeguarded the city now devoured it, twisting loyalty into chains of eternal torment. And when his own magic betrayed him, Toz felt the inevitable pull of the dark arts, transforming him into a lich, eternally bound to the cursed castle, witness to the ruin he could not prevent. The knight moved silently through the chaos, a shadow among shadows. His strikes tore through twisted monstrosities. His armor glinted in the dim light, yet the tide of suffering was unstoppable. Every life he tried to shield slipped through his grasp. Rage burned in him, tempered by despair as he realized that loyalty alone could not save the people, could not save the city, could not save the king from himself. And so, he too became bound, wandering as the spectral guardian of a kingdom lost to ambition and grief. The blood of the city's citizens seeped deep into the ground, turning streets and soil into a living, writhing horror. The twisted earth reached out like fingers, whispering the agony of those who had perished. As the corruption spread through the ruins and into the howling crypts. At the heart of this nightmare, in the inferno, the ground itself breathes, pulses and writhes. Pools of blood flow like rivers, veins of stone twist like sinew, and faces press against walls, screaming silently. Flames dance with a mind of their own, corralling intruders into corridors of despair. Each step is a trial, each strike mirrored by the living castle itself, testing resolve, punishing weakness. The king remains, no longer mortal, no longer human. He sits upon a throne of blood-soaked earth, the ghost king, eternal and horrific, surrounded by the very land made from the lives he sought to protect. The living horror of the city obeys him, and every adventurer who dares enter feels the weight of a kingdom lost to ambition, loyalty, and the price of immortality.